what I believe you'll take away from this today are two things I hope you'll take away. One is a new way to align your sales compensation with your business goals. And then the second is the tool to actually do that, because at the end of this presentation, I'm going to share with you the tool that you need to actually make this happen. So this is not going to be like, this won't be like an academic discussion. This is going to be very in the weeds, detailed, a lot of numbers and charts, and that's kind of the only way I can do this. So I apologize for that. I'll try to go through it quickly. I will stop, if you have questions, just stop me. But I'll try to keep it as painless as possible. So this is a plan that I've shared with several other partner agencies over the past several months. And the few that have actually chosen to implement it have given me some good feedback about how it's working for them. And I've used this in my prior company with a 5-person sales team. And I'm currently using it, and I have one new sales rep at OverGo, and we're currently using it with this sales rep, and it's working well. So what I'm going to show you, and what I like about this plan is I think it's a perfect fit for agencies that are selling recurring revenue contracts. It really works well, and that's why we came up with this plan for it. The fastest way, like I said, the fastest way for me to help you understand this plan is to actually take you through it. So I'm going to take you through a 2-year simulation of how this sales plan would actually roll out in the real world. Yeah. So what I'm going to cover is a brief story about this plan. I'll tell you some background, how this plan came about. I didn't come up with it myself. I had a lot of help with this plan. The problems, I'm going to just touch on some of the problems that I've found with commission sales plans and running them over the years when recurring revenue comes into play. And then we're going to spend the bulk of this presentation just walking through the plan in action. And then questions, if you want to ask questions during, you can ask questions. This is kind of really small and informal, which is great. So let me tell you about how this plan came about. Prior to me starting OverGo Studio, I was a partner in a display manufacturing firm. And one of the niches that we focused on was the quick serve restaurants. So we designed and built menu board systems for the fast food industry. We did both indoor and outdoor drive-through systems for them. And I was lucky enough to grow that company from one client, the first client, to over 600 just using the internet. And along the way, at that time, there was no such thing, at least I wasn't aware of any such thing as marketing automation. So I had to build a sales team to follow up on all these leads that were coming in. And I wound up building a 5-person sales team. And as we brought each salesperson on, I set them up with standard base and draw and commission plan, which it really seemed to work well during the first year. And then we got into year 2, and something started to get funky. And what we realized is that a lot of the clients that we were bringing in were recurring clients. These were small restaurant chains that were constantly building. And we were paying commission to our salespeople on these recurring revenue, which was fine. We're very happy to do it. No problem with that. But it was actually, paying them this was actually disincentivizing them to go out and get new work. And it was, at the bottom line was that the compensation plan was not aligning with our business goals. We wanted to actually develop another niche, and we couldn't get the sales team to get off of what they were doing and focus on this because the compensation plan wasn't incentivizing them to do what our business goals were. So I sat with our sales coach, and he helped me develop this new plan that we rolled out with the sales team. So we rolled it out with all 5 salespeople at once, and initially there was some pushback. And once they understood it and they started to buy into it and started to use it, they really began to embrace it and love it. And I ran that for 3 years up until the point I left and started OverGo Studio, and it really served us well. So what I'm going to show you here is a variation of that plan that I'm using now for my salesperson. So I just want to touch on some of the things that I found a problem with the commission sales plan, and it's not always the case. But the problems I found was that it seemed to set up the zero-sum game mentality where it's what percentage do I get as a salesperson versus what percentage does the company get? It created a sense of entitlement on recurring revenue accounts. And so this guy, and I thought when I saw that picture, it's funny. It reminded me of my salesperson. I won't use his name. But in year 2, that is how he was actually behaving. And that's how kind of like we envisioned him behaving, because he just wasn't doing anything because he didn't have to. He was making 6 figures. He started at 50,000, and by year 2, he was making well into the 6 figures. I'll tell you why, how that happened. And it's tough to change percentages once you establish. I mean, try to have a conversation with a salesperson that says, okay, you know that 10% commission you were making? Well, we're going into this new niche, and we think our margin there, it's going to be much less. We need to pay 6%. How excited are they going to get about that? Or if your profit margins change, which is a big issue for us as agency owners, which I'll touch on too. And I think for the type of businesses we're in, it kind of can discourage constant improvement. So another problem I see with commission sales plan, even if you could come up with one that works, is like what percentage do you do? And the problem with the percentage is, as agencies, what is our gross profit margin today? And then what's our gross profit margin going to be tomorrow or 2 years from now? If you think about when you started your agency, it just may have been yourself. Your gross profit margin was close to 100%, right? Then you added your first subcontractor and your employee, and it dropped to 70%, to 60%, to 40%. I speak with some agency owners that have the mature agencies, and they're saying, well, it's, the real percentage is 15%. And I know a couple others that are around 30%. But when you're a young agency and you may be making 40 or 50% or 30%, you may think that, I'd be happy to give a salesperson a 15% commission for everything he brings in, because hell, I get to keep the rest of that profit. Well, that may work today, but where are you going to be in 2 years? And then how do you adjust that? That's one of the problems with that. So again, what if there was a plan? So this plan, I feel it helps align our business goals each year. It's easy to change this plan, and you'll see as we change it, as market conditions evolve. I think it really does encourage salespeople to improve each year. And most importantly, you can customize this per salesperson based on their goals. And it allows adjustment as your gross profit and net profit margins mature. So calling it collaborative compensation for sales reps, because I needed a name for it. And it sounded good, collaborative. But it is, in the sense, for 2 reasons. One, I don't dictate this to any of the salespeople. I mean, 5 salespeople, I didn't dictate it to them. They helped me develop the plan individually for each individual person. And I didn't dictate it to my current sales rep. So there's 2 things. I don't dictate it, and one, it's a collaborative method that we go through each year to build out the plan for the next year. So this isn't something that you can just turn on and let it run from year 1 and then year 2. It doesn't work that way, which I think is a good thing. You need to sit down and realign your goals. So what I want to do is take you through a simulation here. And I apologize, this could be very dry. It's a lot of numbers. So let's say we're bringing on a new salesperson into our agency, and we're saying the first year goal that we want is 5 new retainers at an average of, let's use moderate average of $6,000 per month. So what is that worth to the business? Well, 5 times 6 is 30,000 times 12 months, because we like to sell annual contracts. That's 360,000, right? But what is it really worth in year 1? Because you're not going to get all 360,000 in year 1. The new salesperson is not selling 5 retainers the first week that he comes on. It's typically going to look more like this. If you ramp, say, okay, the new salesperson has to ramp up. It's about 3 months. Maybe they'll sell the first retainer in month 4, maybe the second in month 6, maybe the third in month 8, and so on and so forth. You're looking at about $150,000 in earned revenue for that first year. as a successful year with your new sales hire. Then next year, you have a remaining balance. You remember there's $360,000 on those accounts. You're going to earn $150,000. Here's where all the boring math comes into play. There'll be $210,000 left coming in year 2. And then you have potential renewals, because if you do a good job, those accounts should renew with you. So what would you pay on that? What would you pay a new salesperson? You know, what can you afford to pay for $150,000 in additional revenue? You know you're making an investment in sales in the first year, and you're going to have $210,000 come in year 2, and potentially another multi-year renewal for that. So what commission do you pay on $150,000? 10%, 15%, 20%? So with the collaborative compensation model, we both agree on a sales compensation based on the goals. So I sat down with my sales rep. These aren't our exact numbers, but they're pretty close. But for here, we're going to use fictitious. We're going to use Beth as a sales rep. Beth wants to make $50,000. Beth needs to survive, and this is important. Beth needs to survive. She needs $36,000 to pay her bills. So we want to make sure that Beth's base is covered, that she's not worried every day that she's not going to be able to pay her bills. So we agree with Beth that she's going to get a base of $36,000 and a bonus of $20,000 if she hits the $150,000 in earned revenue in the first year. So for those of us who do math fast in the room, that's a 13% commission, right? Well, no. We kind of throw commission out the window. We don't talk about commission. You could always do the math, but the numbers are going to change radically through the year and through the years also. We talk about targets, triggers, and bonuses. That's the language we use. We have targeted sales of $150,000. We have a target bonus of $20,000. And we have this thing called triggers. Triggers is an arbitrary number that we use to divide into the targeted sales and the targeted bonus. So for the first year, we're going to use 8. Never use less than 8, and you'll see why, but typically use 12, just to have one trigger a month. And what it means is that if we divide these numbers by 8, every time Beth hits $18,750 in additional earned revenue, she's going to get a $2,500 bonus. 8 into 20,000 is 2,500. 8 into 150,000 is 18,750. So again, you could say, well, that's a 13% commission, right? Well, no, because we're not going to spread it out that way. What we're going to do differently is we're going to set up these 8 trigger points, which are the diamonds, and we're going to start the first trigger at $12,000. So once there's $12,000 in cumulative revenue, which basically that's the first client after month 2, you would have $12,000. Beth will get a $1,500 bonus. Then we're going to ramp the bonuses from $1,500 to $3,500, and so it equals $20,000 when you get to the end. It's the same thing. However, what you're doing is you're giving yourself a little more breathing room as an agency in the beginning to finance this, and you're kind of incentivizing Beth to make sure she hits all of her triggers, because the ones towards the end of the year or towards those last 3 or 4 accounts are going to be more valuable during the first year. It also helps divorce the whole notion of commission, because you'll see in year 2 how this is. Where this really works is in year 2. So this is an important component, and in my prior company we had 5 salespeople. Now we had this set up, but we had weekly goals. So we had weekly targets, weekly goals, weekly triggers. We ran these charts for 5 people every week and published them company-wide, kept them in the cafeteria, so everybody could see how they're doing with where are their targets, where are their bonuses, where are their triggers. This would be the initial chart, and this is something that, this is kind of the visualization portion of this, is where everybody, until the salesperson actually sees this, they don't get it. They're like, I don't understand this. What are you talking about? But once they start seeing the charts, they say, oh, I get it now. So what we see here, the blue line are the sales goals. The triangles along those lines are the triggers. In the table below, you can see that there's a trigger at 12,000, a trigger at 24,000, so on and so forth. The reason you could publish these charts because it doesn't have any confidential information about what the salesperson is making, how much their base is, what their bonus is when they hit a trigger. All it's showing is that here are the triggers that they're supposed to hit, here's their targets, and here's where they are. And I'll show you how that works. So let's fast forward for the first 8 months. And let's say in month 4, Beth closes the first client for $6,000. And in month 8, she closes client number 2 for $7,000. So right now, after 8 months, we have $37,000 in earned sales. And this is what Beth's chart would look like. The actual line is the red line. So right now, Beth is below her triggers, but you can see she was supposed to be here, but you can see she's actually hit 3 triggers. 1, 2, 3. You can see down here, she's hit her $12,000, her $24,000, and her $36,000 trigger. So what does that mean in compensation to Beth? Well, if you remember, Beth had a base of $3,000 a month, so there's $24,000 that she's earned so far in her base. And bonus, she hit a $1,500 bonus in month 5, another $1,500 bonus in month 7, and a $2,000 bonus in month 8. So she's at $5,000 in bonuses. Total $29,000 compensation. You also have to be aware of the fact that we only earn $37,000 in sales, and we've paid Beth $29,000 of that. So bringing on a sales rep is an investment, and you have to acknowledge that.
So it's billings each month is what you're basing
Cumulative. Yeah. So we had that. So that one client came in on month 4, and by month 8, they'd have a cumulative of $24,000. So we're looking at the cumulative sales, right? Yeah.
And is it when the money is received by the company, or when do you count that money?
So in the previous company, we actually had receivables, and it was when the money was received.
Okay.
And in OverGo, we don't have any receivables.
Okay.
There's no such thing. There's
Because it's just the
you
same
pay up
amount
front.
a month.
Yeah.
I see.
All our clients pay on the first of their billing period before we even start anything. So, yeah. So it would be, as soon as they pay. Yeah. That's what I would recommend. For cash flow purposes. If you're trying to grow and you're cash strapped. So if we fast forward to month 12, we had client 1 in month 4, client 2 in month 8, client 3 comes in for $7,000 in month 9, client 4 in month 10 for 7, and client 5 in month 11 for $6,000. Conveniently, this all adds up to $150,000. That's great. So Beth hit all her numbers. You can see the chart. She was lagging back and finally hit the numbers. You can't see the chart because my head's in the way. Okay, so here's where it gets interesting. Year 2. Beth's total compensation, because she hit all 8 triggers, was $56,000. Now, since I did the math for everybody, on the balance of those 5 accounts, we have $246,000 that's going to come in because they're 12-month contracts. So there's $246,000 that's left on those accounts from year 1 that will come in year 2. Okay. If those accounts renew, that's another $150,000 in year 2 that we would earn. So there's a total potential recurring sales of $396,000 in year 2 from the work that from the accounts that Beth has brought in year 1. This makes sense, everybody? Nobody's sleeping yet? All right. So we sit down, this is an important part, we sit down to plan the next year with Beth, and based on what she's done and what she feels she can do in the second year, she's going for 8 clients at $7,000 a month retainer. Now if we spread that out again, the total contract value for them would be $672,000. But if we spread it out evenly, now Beth is already ramped up, so she's not going to take 4 months to get the next sale. But if we spread it out evenly from month 1 throughout the year, it'd be about $371,000 in earned revenue. That's what I'm using for this. So when we look at Beth's goals for year 2, we have new sales, 371,000 in earned sales, contract balances of 246,000, and potential renewals of 150,000. So total, $760,000 in year 2. So now it becomes clear why, if we're paying Beth a commission, say we were paying 15%, that's a lot of money. That's over $110,000 commission on a base, right? So Beth would have gone from $50,000 salesperson to a $150,000 salesperson in 1 year. And this happened to me in my old company. I gave my salesperson a lead that came in through the internet, and I said, this looks like a great lead. It's from the small company called Starbucks. So let's follow up on him. So he did. And after many meetings, we closed the deal, and they kind of, they gave us a $5 million contract over 2 years. And to give you some idea, we were only a $2.5 million company at the time. And yeah, so that's what happened to him. He went from being a $50,000 salesperson to being a $130,000 person, and it just didn't make sense. Yeah. Eventually, that's worse than underpaying somebody. At least you're underpaying somebody, you can correct that. So eventually I had to make him available for employment elsewhere. But yeah, you don't want to be yeah, so let's keep going. So in the collaborative compensation model, we sit down with Beth and say, Beth, what do you want to earn this year? But Beth wants to make $95,000. Beth her tastes have improved. She's buying expensive clothes. She wants a good car. She needs to survive. She needs $50,000 to survive. So we agree with Beth that we're going to give a base of $50,000 and a bonus of $50,000. Target compensation is $100,000 based upon bringing in these new accounts and the work that Beth has already done in year 1. Now typically, so I have this little footnote here, we would also create an accelerator at this point for Beth. So if she exceeded the goals, and this may be the only time we would actually use a percentage, but you could also use a flat number too. If you exceed the goals, then there'll be an additional upon this. But being agencies and being the fact that we supply services, we have to be careful with that. We don't want to incentivize our sales team to oversell if we can't deliver, because that's another way to discourage your salespeople. So, be careful with setting up an accelerator here. So the way we spread this out is we have new sales of 371,000, contract balances of 246,000 from year 1. The balance in the new is 617,000. Okay? We have a $50,000 bonus structure for Beth, and the way we decide to spread it out is we're going to put the bulk of it on the balance in the new sales of 40,000. And the reason we do that is because in this model, we don't rely on Beth to get the renewals. We're relying on the account management team to get the renewals. And it may be different for some of you. I know some of you in here actually have your salespeople doing some of the account management, so it may be different. It may be an inverse. So, but we want to acknowledge that we want Beth to bring in good accounts going forward, ones that will be most likely to renew with us. So we're going to put $10,000 for that too. And the way we do the triggers, well, now she's in year 2. It's just simple. Just do 12 triggers, 1 a month. So each trigger is worth $3,300, each bonus. And for the renewals, there's only 5 contracts, so we're going to do 5 triggers. So each one's worth $2,000. This make sense? So here's the new sales chart for Beth at the beginning of the year. You can see the target sales is straightened out now because she's all ramped up. It's fairly linear. Again, the triangles are the bonus, $3,300 each time Beth reaches one of those numbers. The orange line now are the renewals, and there's 5 triggers on that. And the table below provides all the numbers to explain, Month 6 is the first. Month 4, okay, that's the first renewal trigger, month 4. Month 1 is the first new sales trigger, $40,000. The key with this program is always publishing these charts and keeping them up to date, because I mean, I found that that was the way that the sales team was actually really comprehending this. And they got to a point, because I mean, I was doing this weekly with my other company, they got to a point where they really, if they didn't have this chart by Friday afternoon, they were in my office like, where's my sales chart? I want to see where I am. Where am I? You know, where am I? Am I on target? Am I behind? You know, how much more do I need? All right, clicker work. Okay. So that's pretty much it for the simulation. I said, nobody left. That's great. Nobody killed themselves. That's good too. So I have a spreadsheet tool that I created. So if you want it, just email me. I'll give you my email address on the next screen, and I'll send this to you. So it just takes you through it, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's fairly simple. It shows you where to plug a bunch of numbers in. So the thing that I found after we did this plan for 3 years is that the focus, the conversation changed a lot with the sales team. It was more about alignment. It was more about the business goals and the salesperson's personal goals. And it was, we never had a conversation again about how much commission am I getting on that, how much is the company keeping, how much is the company making. You know, those conversations went away, which was great. This plan is very easy to adjust as your margins change. So as we mature as agencies, you know, we see our margins are going to mature. Our profit margins, our gross profit margins, our net profit margins are going to mature. It's easy to change. It's also easy to get your sales, using this type of plan, it's easy to get your, I should say easy. Probably easy is not the word. But it's possible to get your sales team to focus on a new niche that you may want to go into, you know, and target. Because it's flexible enough to do that. Now the one thing it does require annually resetting this plan with your sales team. I mean, you have to meet at least at the latest November, December, early December to start building this for the next year. You can't just put it on and let it run. But I think that's the best part about it, is I know you're collaborating with them. And if you want the spreadsheet, just send me an email at Rick@OverGo Studio, and I'll get it out to you.